happens when you go back and revisit these movies with a refined eye and you're an adult? Gladys and them damn pips really had us out here cheering for this struggle love. No! Guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Tyra here with another struggle review, here to discuss Claudine. Now, this movie is from 1974 and it stars Diahann Carroll and James Earl Jones. Now, before we get into all things giving with the kissing and hugging with the loving, I need you guys to drop down and subscribe to my channel and like this video. I'm going to give you guys a moment to do that, and then we're going to come back and discuss. I mean, we was really out here rooting for them as a couple, and for the life of me, I just can't understand why. We can't give with the kissing and hugging with the loving if we struggling. That's no way to be.
Go back.
You guys have hopefully subscribed to see more of me. Let's get into this movie. But before we jump into the video, I have to give a shout out to the person who paid for it and requested this video. So if you happen to get your welfare check, it's not because of me, it's because of this person right here. Thank you so much for supporting me and paying for this content. Now, getting into this movie was directed by John Barry. He was a very prolific director in the 1950s, all up and through the Paramount Studios, not only with films, but really deep into theater. He also directed Tamango, starring Dorothy Dandridge, and he also directed Sister Sister, another movie I'll review that I will leave the link for below, that also starred Diahann Carroll. Speaking of Diahann Carroll, what can we say about her that hasn't already been said? She is just absolutely a legend. She is one of the first, real Black Hollywood female stars. And that not only goes for film, but it goes for theater and television as well. Though Miss Diahann Carroll was everything, she did receive a lot of backlash early on in her career for being a bit too poised, not being, too down with the Black community. Her need to always be perceived as elegant and classy, being really selective about her roles, translated to some of her being stuck up, bougie, oh, she thinks she's too good, when that was just not the case. She was one of those few actresses that just wanted to be selective because she decided you cannot paint all Black women, all Black female actresses with the same brush, and it is okay to show some of that diversity on screen. This led to her doing amazing things like being the first Black woman to win a Tony for Best Actress in a Musical, being the first Black woman to lead her own sitcom, and she wasn't portraying a stereotype. She opened doors. But for some, Claudine was the first time she came outside and showed, oh, she's down, she could display, different things. She can be a sister, like, oh, because, just fuck Broadway. Now, this was not only a departure for Miss Diahann Carroll, this was also a departure for the blaxploitation movies of that era. It was not all about Whitey in this movie. We are introduced to Claudine, single mother of 6, who is not only trying to make a way and provide for herself, but for her 6 children as well, despite living in a low-income area, having this little piece of job that doesn't pay enough as a maid that she can't even admit to having, just so she can keep her full welfare benefits. Now, courtesy of Curtis Mayfield being on writing and production, and Gladys Knight and the Pips bringing this soundtrack to us, the music in this movie does not take their foots off of your neck as soon as the movie starts. How can I work out this sweet relation, keeping our hearts together with no temptation, keeping us loving, hugging and a loving, getting with the kissing, hugging and a loving, hugging and sticking like glue, just a loving, on and on, fuck it up on the bass, on and on. The soundtrack here is extremely funky. Claudine is a movie with a whole lot to say that I didn't, fully receive all the concepts watching this movie 14, 15 years old. But this movie is progressive in a whole lot of ways. Has a whole lot of topics that are extremely still relevant, all while being real toxic at the same time. Even statements made on the bus ride at the very beginning of the movie with Claudine on her way to work about needing your cornflakes and your vitamin D from a man and it being okay, not being judged for it just based on, the number of children that you have, wanting to be received and looked at a certain way. You're still allowed to date, still allowed companionship. You can still have sex. We hear talks about voting, talks about equal opportunity for women, things that are still very much so talked about now. Now, the way Claudine decided to go about that, we gonna talk about that. Now, James Earl Jones here as Rupert is trying real hard to be her vitamin D and that opportunity for Claudine. He is your local buff, glistening garbage man. Let the flirting commence. Now, even though Claudine is extremely hesitant, she does see something in Rupert and allows him to take her out on a date, even though she said no first. Now, that moment when she said, no, I'm good at first, and he decides to go, you're on welfare, ain't you? Like, I wonder how, the welfare people would feel about, you working here and having a job. Sir. There were so many red flags here for this relationship between Claudine and Rupert that it was just absolutely ridiculous that anybody would root for them to be together in the first place. Now, for Claudine, going on a date or having any time to herself outside of maybe going to work and coming home, it's not an easy feat. Claudine has a whole lot on her plate with 6 children, all different ages, all different sizes, all different demands, all different attitudes. Now, for starters, watching this at a younger age, I feel like I gave Claudine a whole lot of grace. Not that anybody should ever be penalized for the number of children that they have, the way that they pursue relationships, but for what Claudine wanted for herself, the way she went about this relationship with Rupert was just absolutely off. We ain't even gonna get into the red flag of Rupert coming up the stairs and the child opening the door and his ass saying, let me come in and sit on the couch and wait on your mama and I don't know you from a can of paint. We're just gonna leave that where it's at. Why is he even in your house, Claudine? Like, I have to keep reminding myself watching this movie that, consider the day and age, the time, that no, this is the first initial date. Like, I don't even know you. You stay downstairs in your car, come pick me up and we can go where we need to go. You should not be sitting in here looking overwhelmed on my sofa. Let's get into Rupert. He got a really good look at everything that Claudine has to deal with on a daily basis. Disrespectful, ratchet ass kids. Like, there was some badass kids. Claudine had some really extra kids, you know what I'm saying? With all of them individually requiring something different at any given time. Like, the house is extremely busy. We ain't even gonna get on, Charles occupying the bathroom as that oldest, aka Lawrence Hilton-Jacobs, aka that's why they hired us, because we don't look like cops, baby, aka who left the towel in the swimming pool. Very much so young here, very much so giving militant young man, feeling like he's the man of the house, and the last thing we need is your ass going on yet another date. This is going to turn out like all the other times. So let's not even go there first. Let's spend 5 minutes on Charlene, because there's a whole strong presence of those older 2 children. Charlene wants nothing more than to go out and hang out with Abdullah, aka Teddy. She wants to go out and just be trusted to do so with the boyfriend. She has an extremely poor attitude, a whole lot of sass. And just like Charles, you can't tell her anything. She's a know-it-all. She is the full embodiment of, oh, you think you grown. My mama foot would have been right here. Charlene's entire dynamic reminded me of just another girl on the IRT. I will leave the link below for anybody who wants to go watch my video on that one. It is a good ass time. But that whole thing of you not being old enough to be trusted, I don't want to see you with any boys, you're not allowed to date, but I am allowed to be here and be a designated mother and babysitter to all of my siblings when you have to work or when you have to be out. Just like I said in Just Another Girl on the IRT, let them girls out. Talk to your children, talk to your daughters, Claudine's worst fear this entire movie was, you know what, I need to keep an eye and a foot on you because I don't want you to make the same decisions that I did. But look at the way we are going about it. It is a whole lot to be said when you are the oldest female in the family, and due to the dynamics and, you know, there not being any fathers present and any help, I am the sole person who is responsible for these children when you are not here. It damn sure was not Charles. But, you know, when we have dynamics like that, it tends to make that oldest grow up a lot faster, feel like they're, you know, more mature than they are, and they can try to do things that they should not be doing just because they feel like I'm ready for them. Instead of just allowing, you know, your daughter to be your daughter, she is playing caregiver and mother to the children that you just can't be with all the time, 24/7, because you have to provide. Meanwhile, Charlene is walking around with an attitude because she thinks she's grown and she knows better and she knows everything. I should be able to go out and do whatever I want to do. I can be here and watch all these kids. I should be able to go out with my boyfriend. Besides, I know better. What you think, I'm gonna get pregnant and wind up like you? Well, when we're young, alone and in a dark room with the boy named Tyrone, Teddy, and Abdullah telling us what we want to hear, we don't know too much enough. You know, all it takes is one little boy to come along and tell you what you want to hear. And that little militant one ran a real good game on Charlene. Like, I love when we get to the end. You know, a lot of black men did a lot, you know, when they didn't have nothing. You know, Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, like Frederick Douglass, girl, he ain't none of them. He ain't none of them, and you do not know what you are getting yourself into, but we're gonna get into that later. I just love me some James Earl Jones, and you know how his voice carries, like those old school theater trained ass actors and actresses, like it was a different type of energy. Like every single statement is a powerful, like dramatic moment just because he has one of those voices and it just carries. But getting into their date and that energy that we have between Rupert and Claudine and the way that they interact with each other, like red flags on 10. Let's get into the first one. Claudine pretty much goes out of her way to try to get out of this date because she is just simply exhausted. But he keeps persisting. Come on, I want to take you out. First of all, we go back to this man's house on a first date to take a bath. A bubble bath with lemon joy dishwashing liquid. Oh, you was putting on the moves. He is lighting candles. He is, you know, taking out Ripple. Like, he is just so accommodating. But there are so many things about Rupert that was just like, first of all, we should not, like, no, I am not digging the energy of going back to somebody's spot that you don't even know. 70s are not, we getting it. Like, tried to take her clothes off to help her get in this tub. Like, sir, Rupert was such a smooth talking, eager beaver. Like, back up off me. We're not even gonna get into about 5 women saying what's up to Rupert before he could even get into his little roach infested apartment. Child, when the rat would have ran across the floor, I would have been out. But that's just maybe me. Or even the statement made about, you know, you seem really smart, really progressive. Like, do you want more than just being a garbage man? It's just like, oh no, I like this. I like being settled. You know, I don't want more. You know, then people come look like, it just was not really great energy. And then you have Claudine kind of, you know, opening herself up to this because not only does she want, you know, some intimacy or just, you know, some male company, she really wants that family unity. She really wants to be married. She really wants that man and that husband by her side. If she did not want that, we would not have, and I'm not going to call them failed attempts. You know, her children, nobody's children are failures, but just her trying to have that family dynamic, trying to get married, I believe 2 or 3 times, and it just did not work out. You would think, I'm not going to penalize her for, you know, trying at all, but you would think after, you know, 2 or 3 failed marriages, we would try to conduct ourselves and move into a, whatever this is, a little differently. We do not at all. Not only is Claudine overworked, but she is just extremely tired. The way those children were clamoring at her, it was just like, oh God, this is just not even my tub, but this is a moment for me to find some peace. Rupert's ass is in there with a dozen roses. Hey, such would astound you. The joy of children laughing around you. These are the makings. We got the Curtis Mayfield on. The makings of you. Buttering sharing all of Claudine's biscuits. Meanwhile, it's a little early for you to be putting yourself in these kind of predicaments, man. Like, the fact that she was that tired. But even though she was that tired, I just couldn't find a bunch of room to give Claudine all the grace, because all the time that you are spending with Rupert away from your children, which really gets into her inner complex as a mother, and with this relationship that they begin to have, you are leaving your children to be taken care of by the older siblings, aka just Charlene, and it is weighing on her and making her act out within the movie, because she doesn't know her place as a person or a daughter, because she is too busy having to play mommy to her siblings. But let's get back to Claudine. Claudine, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Even though Rupert is suave, Mesa, suave, he's suave. Putting on the moves, we are pouring the wine, and then it just turns into, how old are you? Well, how the hell do you have 6 kids? I love the whole conversation of Claudine just being very proud. I'm not gonna be penalized. I don't have to explain myself or my kids to anybody. Everybody, as well as welfare, wants me to be a certain way or act a certain way or be, belittled just because I just happen to have 6 kids. I wasn't just out here making babies willy-nilly. I was married twice, and I tried to maybe get married again, and it just didn't work. You, on the other hand, sir, where are your kids? Where are your kids in 2 different states by 2 different ex-wives? So who are you to place judgment? Placing judgment or not, or the 2 of them having their own preconceived notions of each other's, the whole situation was a red flag in my book. Because if you're the type of man that will pick up, drop everything, and leave your own kids and move to another state twice, what exactly are you going to do for me or for my children? And that's not to say that Rupert was just supposed to jump and be instant daddy to all 6 of them damn kids. No. But as a man who is pretty much a self-proclaimed runner, certain things like, children and that, strong responsibility of being a father, being present, those are just not things that I am ready for. So we go get with a woman who has 6 children. Like, you saw it. It was there. They were all in the living room before y'all left. Like, and not even that. With Claudine pretty much already knowing what she wants for herself and for her children, the way that she moves throughout the movie, the way that she's moved throughout her life, you can tell that this is a woman who wants more, and she just hasn't been able to have that. And unfortunately, it ended, and she is left with the responsibility of the kids. Like, we ain't even gonna get into Rupert saying, well, that's your responsibility. You the woman. Like, get away from that man. But there were so many moments to display that Rupert was not that man to give that to you. She knew that, and he knew that as well. But we both at that moment at that table decide to, put our differences to the side and just settle for what we can have right now. This peace, this embrace, this pleasure, this sex on the first date. All right, Claudine. She said, I'm getting my vitamin D and I'm getting my cornflakes. It's my money and I need it now. Like, I need it right now. Like, not my cup of tea, but nobody should ever be penalized for having sex on the first date. That is an adult decisions that adults are making. But for what Claudine wanted, this was not the way to go. Not to mention that we did not have Rupert work and wait for a goddamn thing. It was just so easy for him. Like, Rupert had already set in motion what he wanted from Claudine. He thought she was beautiful regardless of those kids. I think you're fine. I want to hang out with you. I want to go on a date. I want to have sex. Claudine, on the other hand, with different expectations, giving it up on a first date, and we have no boundaries. We didn't make him, work for anything. We haven't been courted. We haven't been dated. All we got was, some Joy dishwashing liquid, some Ripple, and some chicken. Already sends that clear message to Rupert that I ain't gotta do nothing. Claudine's expectations for what we have right now are just as low as mine are. Not only, she's already on welfare, I can even be up in her spot like that. Like, she is okay with this. We are basking in, that energy that we have right now when we're alone with each other, when we are out on dates, when we are in bed. And I'm okay with that. And so is she, because she let me know that right here, right now in this moment. So when we have Claudine have higher expectations of Rupert later on in the film, it's like, girl, you already found out this man is estranged and distant from his own children, has his own failed marriages, and we had to tell him to stop, get a rat, throw it away, and have to remind him him to wash his goddamn hands. Sir, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You was gonna flush a rat down the toilet, then come back and put your nasty ass lips on me. Absolutely not. Not only that, but we can't even get through a full date, whether we are getting into intimacy or not, without Claudine's children blowing up the phone or without a whole other woman calling to see what the hell Rupert at. Okay. I love that brief moment the first time that they are in bed, and we have Claudine have, this hesitation, and she says, like, if I was to, really get into this, I'm faking right now, like my mind isn't all here. I felt like it was because she wasn't 100% sure that this particular situation wasn't going to turn out like all the other ones, but at that moment, she settled for the piece of man and the sex. Okay, let's get into these disrespectful ass children, like, damn. I forgot just how disrespectful these children are. I forgot, just how they spoke to her as their mother, how they interacted with each other. Like, there was a lot to be said about not only Claudine being a single mother, but that lack of presence of a father within the house. We didn't even go get into, the younger siblings handling each other the way that they are. That goddamn Charlene and Charles, like, he just gonna leave you like all the rest of them niggas. Like, why you even wasting your time? That's nasty. She out here having sex as old as she is. She needs to grow up. Like, the way that her children were interacting with her, was a total mess and really disrespectful. But I had to take a moment to step back and think about what they've seen and what they have been through. Them, acting out the way that they were speaking to her, though everybody needs to catch a backhand. In my opinion, this all had to do with them just wanting more for their mother and from the man that she was bringing around, and hoping that, this would be, the last one. How, revolving has that door been, and how many times did the kids, get their hopes and their expectations of you having a man, them having a father, having that, parenting dynamic within the house, just for it to go away. So when we have somebody like old Rupert come around, trying to interact with us, we are just giving full-blown rudeness, disrespect, and pushback. Like, yeah, that nigga here, like, we don't want to talk with you, we don't want to interact with you. This is, a temporary thing. You're here to fuck on our mama. You might give her a baby, and then you're gonna be gone just like everybody else. I could completely understand both sides, just why, her kids were so frustrated. Charles, old good militant ass Charles, like, he is just so broken within the movie. Going back here, older, I noticed, this time around, just how broken Charles was as that oldest. Like, he has been the first one there to see every single coming goings of every single man that has been in his mother's life, that has disappointed him, as well as the siblings, as well as her. And he is just over it. Not just over, their dynamic in the home, but just the world in general. That rebellion that's within him, that hatred that he says that he has, for his other siblings, he was hurting so badly. You know how troubled and hurt you have to be to get a vasectomy at 18 years old. Like, that whole disdain that he had for their life and, the welfare, the lack of money, we're barely surviving, the kids, that's coming in and out, the men that are coming in and out, the community, the neighborhood, the outlook as far as, what we have as black people, black men, it's just not enough. I am just over it. Like, when he said, if you love me, you would have aborted me, I was like, oh God. That is just, such a strong statement, but it's just coming from a place of hurt. Like, if you love me, you wouldn't have brought me here. Why are you continuing to make babies and bring them into a place where, it's toxic, it's unhealthy, and you can't really afford to take care of us with somebody else, let alone on your own? You would have got rid of me if you love me that much. Like, oh my goodness. Was probably the most hurt out of all of Claudine's children. But at the same time, you try to identify with Claudine's decisions as well, because it's like, aren't I, as a mom, aren't I, allowed grace? Am I allowed to, fail? This didn't work, I tried again. Like, give me a little room. But, at the same time, it's like, okay, girl, like, the fifth time is the charm. Like, at what point are you going to go about these situations differently and, really think about the man that you have in your life and the aspects of which y'all might be in the future and which y'all might not be. Like, every time going in should not be a risk of, hey, this could be a situation where I get another baby and then, I'm left again, especially when you already have mouths to feed. You are just simply exhausted, not only as a mother, but as a person, as an ex-wife. Like, I am so sick of repeating this same cycle. I want more for myself. I want more for my kids. Then we have to be strategic and move a little different, Colleen. Especially since she was tired of keeping away from Mr. Welfare. She was tired. Claudine was tired. The kids was tired. Like, oh, the social worker here again. Like, oh. The whole breakdown of welfare, even the relationship dynamics between Claudine and Rupert, they are all still very relevant. But the whole way that the system of welfare works, and as far as I can see, is still very much so the same. Claudine has to play down her income. She has to keep her job a secret just to receive it. Oh, Lord, we hiding the iron. We can have a TV. To have to not only subject yourself, but your family to a full-on inspection of your house, be questioned, it's just absolutely degrading. And then we get into the way that the welfare system works. Hey, I have to keep my job a secret so I can receive, the full benefit. If I do have a job, I need to like low-key make below low minimum wage to even receive it. But with my job, I still need help with these benefits just to get by because my job does not pay enough. But if I sit around and just collect welfare and don't do a damn thing, then I'm lazy. It's very much so a lose-lose situation. But Claudine is doing the best she can, and she even has a man here in her life trying really hard to warm up to her children. He is trying to, appeal to their other natures. It's invisible, the family invisible, and an invisible car. Like, he's talking, he's, trying to drop some knowledge, shooting some dice. She needs to strive for more. He is trying to help her out and step up, which is great to see here, because despite what anybody has to say, if you aren't married, if you have, children from previous marriages, previous relationships, you're a baby mama, you're a baby daddy, whatever, a lot of people, you don't need to worry about that. I don't need no help with my kids, but like, no, if you have intentions on being with someone who has kids, especially the way that Claudine did, everybody when, 16, 17, 18 on their way out of the house, Claudine has some young children. Eventually, it's going to be realistic for you to accept the fact that you are going to have to interact with this woman's children. If you are having expectations not to do that, then you probably should not be here. So once we are often getting with the kiss and hugging with the loving and the welfare, lady shows up. Like, by this point, they are really dedicated to each other. He has embraced her children and they are moving forward. But by the time he really realizes what she has to do with, when he does a piss poor job of hiding, you had one job, King Joffrey Jofa. All you had to do was wait behind the door in the bathroom and hold the colored TV. But he just really gets to see just how demeaning it is. Like, I want no part of this. The fact that Claudine is pretty much stalked and she is not allowed to have any male company without reporting every single dime, dollar, ounce, anything he ever happens to provide for her children. Because if you are getting any assistance from anybody, we need to know about it. We need to know the comings and goings. Is he sleeping here? Are you having sex? Did he buy you some wine? Like, oh, it's just all too much. And that's just not something that he wants to deal with. Child, the whole fraud. That whole scene and what they wanted him to do, just to be a man there in their life. I was like, well, goddamn, this ain't even a husband. The whole thing of having to turn over, all of his income, where it comes from, where do you live and all, like, all of this just so I can pull up and, get my thigh rub. Like, goddamn, like, I ain't signed up for this. But he is willing to, put his pride to the side and do this for, Claudine. But if we do happen to get married, I am expected to instantly get on welfare if I do happen to lose my job, continuing on this cycle to keep you down, because that's what it is. He's like, you know what? I don't have time for this. Despite, Rupert was a whole lot of things. He is very much so a man's man. He has pride. He takes pride in, being able to step up, being able to provide. And this, in a way, is just making me feel like it's not that. You know what? Damn all of that, Claudine. Fraud. We are about to get married. I'm gonna make an announcement to the children. I love you. You know, they have embraced me. Let's get it on. Hold up. The child support has came outside. She said it's your child. Yes, she did. And it really messed me up. Ow! How could you deny? He wasn't denying the kids. He just wasn't paying enough money, according to whoever filed on his ass was saying. When he gets put on the papers and he gets served, Rupert shows a whole different side to himself that Claudine and the children have yet to see. And then the disappointments begin to roll down the hill. He disappoints and leaves the kids hanging high and dry on Father's Day of all things. When they have embraced him, they are so excited. And just to see the disappointment on Claudine's face, her children's face was just, ugh. Soon as he gets served, you know, the energy is different. How about I just run away, change my name? Like, this, what's the point? What is the point of me working if I can't, you know, barely provide for myself? I definitely would not be able to provide anything for you or for your children. But a whole lot was to be said about the fact that we are non-existent in our own children's life, but we are jumping at the chance just because, you know, we have feelings for Claudine to be a father to all 6 of hers. Okay, despite Claudine trying to be there for him, you know, appeal to his better nature because she knows deep down he is better than this. Rupert disappears, ghosts her and her children, like, just to see them damn kids riding. They look like they rolled far as fuck on that bike just to see where he was and if he was still there. And he couldn't even have the common decency to tell Claudine to her face that, you know, I'm leaving. He literally disappeared in thin air and didn't give her or her children an explanation. But we still have good old Claudine feeling like she missed out on something. Like, oh, he's a good man, Savannah. He begging on his damn knees and you letting him get away. Ma'am, no, not for that. We will not for that. Absolutely not. Like, a whole lot of stuff about Claudine at that moment came into question because that would have been the whole straw that broke the camel's back. Because it's one thing for you to get my hopes up and disappoint me, but you disappointed my children. Yet we still have Claudine out here, you know, scouring the streets looking for Rupert, who didn't give, you know, 2 fucks enough to even say anything to her before he left. Now, in the question of him leaving, I really don't know that whole thing about, you know, the job in St. Louis and going, you know, for better, or, you know, where you just planning to run away somewhere and get paid under the table so you can avoid child support, because that's what it sounded like to me. I definitely understood where Claudine was coming from. You know, a good man is hard to find, but there was this whole essence of desperation, like, I lost another one. Like, don't you ever tell me that something that meant something precious to me was, you know, nothing, Charles, and that I'm better off without it. Like, girl, Charles ain't 100% wrong. Even though, you know, a lot of what Charles had to say to her as her son was coming from a place of hurt. But in the meantime, while we have been wrapped up in our relationship, you know, I need to know that you're with me, that you have my back, and we scouring, you know, highways and byways for Rupert's ass. Why don't you go up there and look at Charlene's tits? Like, hey, see you later, grandma. Like, oh, excuse me? Like, what? Goes up there and whips. Oh, now you want to pass? Whoops. Charlene's ass because she is pregnant. Like, are we surprised? Like, you were way out there all occupied. Charlene coming in all late with a little red top, talking about she was at the Flamingo learning how to talk to people and hold her liquor. Now she is pregnant and she cannot just, you know, be more disappointed. But just like Charles, she feels like, you know, she knows everything also, even though she is clearly scared. And it's just like, but you know, we were going to get married and we're going to get 2 jobs. And she is just really hurt because it's like, damn, the cycle is continuing with you, you know, maybe having a broken home, being, you know, in poverty, not having enough to provide for yourselves or your kids. Like, she's just so disappointed. The way that Charlene was brought up, the way that she was made to be instant caregiver, instant mommy, anytime that you were at work, anytime that, you know, you were with Rupert or whoever, because, you know, this is clearly now, I'm sure Charlene has been that maternal figure for, you know, her younger siblings for a minute. So it was a lot easy for her to fall into that trap of feeling like she was, you know, ready for sex early on. And even with all this talk, I feel like as an audience, we were gearing up to believe that Charlene was going to be a single mother just like Claudine, you know, Teddy, Abdullah, whatever. We never even saw him one time in the movie. I feel like she was ready to pretty much take that on and have her 7th child in the house. But okay, you know, whatever. We get to the questionable part of the movie, in my opinion. We have Charles just feel like, you know what, I'm about to roll up on this nigga. He rolls up on Rupert, you know, just getting fully intoxicated in a bar and beats him up because, you know, yet again, you are another man who has hurt my mom. Like, how could you do that? With Charles being the most hurt out of all of the kids and, you know, being the most distant away from him, you know, he wants to be more of the revolutionary, you know, I want to protest. I want, you know, to do something with my life, to mean something. The last thing I want to do is end up like this. For change, I have to fight. But even outside of that, he really wanted a father. He really wanted some happiness for his mother, some happiness for his siblings. You, despite what I think of you, you acted like you were going to provide that, and you yet again ran your ass off. But since Rupert kind of already knows this, instead of, you know, giving back a little pushback, he accepts that ass whooping and he does his best to hug Charles. And it's just like, okay, what I wanted to know was, if Charles did not roll up on your ass, were you going to go back to, you know, explain yourself to the children, explain yourself to Claudine, try to take her hand in marriage? Like, I understand, and it says a lot that once he did, you know, pull up in his car, that my own father was, you know, MIA. This is just, you know, all of these cycles repeating. I was scared. Rupert is a whole lot of things, but a lot of this came from just not feeling like a man. I'm not able to give and provide for you guys, and that's a problem. If I can't do that, I don't feel like I have a place. Why am I here? And it causes me to run. You know, being a father, being a provider, it really scares me. But I love your mama, and I love y'all. You know, fuck my other kids at different stages. You know what I'm saying? But just, it's heartwarming, but it's still a little sad to see the desperation coming off of Claudine as well as those kids. Like, when the kid in the back says, you know, like we not that much, you know, Charlene and Charles are older, they're about to move out, it's just gonna be 4 of us. Like, you gonna only have 4 miles to prepare. The other kid holding up the sign, you know, I don't eat much. Like, oh, they wanted a father so bad, and, you know, they did care about him as well as Claudine. So, you know, after 10 years without no spouse, mama's getting married in the house. Listen, positive over negative for the woman of master. Charles is MIA. He just happens to be at this protest. And, you know, with this fight that broke out with the cops, he runs away and tries to blend in with the wedding party. And even in that moment, we have Rupert step in and stick up for Charles and, you know, try to protect him from the officers to the point that he gets arrested. And then you have Claudine, that's my husband. But we end off, you know, the way that we didn't begin. That opening shot in the beginning is, you know, Claudine walking with her children hand in hand, and it's just her as a single mom. But we end off the movie with all of them, not only her and her kids, but now she has a man. He's a good man, Savannah. She has a man by her side to help her with her children, and he is eager to do so because he loves her, and he loves all 6 of her kids. His own kids. We ain't gonna talk about them. But that is my review for Claudine. Please drop down and tell me what you thought about it. Do you think that this movie, or, you know, their relationship is a little toxic, or do you love it? You don't care how they got together. You're just glad that she ended up with a man. You know what I'm saying? I look forward to reading you guys' comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, all that good stuff. Support me. I know y'all see my little link down there. Pay me money. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.